Hello and welcome A-League fans to another episode of the A-League's Download presented by Isuzu Ute. What a weekend of football we had. The New Zealand derby was fierce. Melbourne City continued to shine at the top of the competition and a few A-League uncapped Socceroos in the next squad, which is going to be very interesting to see who features. I'm your host, Jake Barker-Daish, and as always joined by Danish goalkeeping legend Thomas Sorensen and Grace Maher, Melbourne Victory midfielder. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Very good weekend of football, guys, I thought.
Yeah, loved it. Melbourne derby, I was there, and a great win for City. You had a great win as well?
Yep, 3 points on the board, so looking forward to, carrying that through for another week.
A lot of great goals, which we're going to go through in your game as well, Grace, but we thought we'd start with some absolute pearlers from the weekend. A couple of bangers that we love to show here on the downloads. Bailey Brantman's initial goal here. Grace, talk us through this one.
Yeah, well, Bailey's a young player. He's got a gun of a left foot, and as you can see, when you give him time and space, he's going to let that rock into the back of the net. A little bit of a feint there, and he's gone, through 4 Perth Glory defenders, and the goalkeeper stood no chance. It's a brilliant strike, and they take home the 3 points.
His first goal in the competition put the Glory to bed in that game. And then another man we've spoken about in the first few weeks of the competition is Ifeanyi Eze. Thomas Sorensen, he's done it again out here at the Cake Tin.
Yeah, he does. Jake Brimmer, I think, wants to just make the game exciting, passes it to him, but take nothing away from the finish. He was close to a red card a couple of weeks ago. He doesn't care, and he keeps going from strength to strength. You can argue he's one of the buyers of the season.
Is that his left opposite foot there? We're tipping because we did see him keep on his
he can
right.
use both. We've definitely seen it. So, but what a versatile player they've got, and strength as well.
Yeah, well, I've got to be honest. I've been likening him to Diego Costa through
That's
the
high
rooms here.
expectations.
So he's tough, he's fierce, and he gets goals. But we can't let everyone off the hook on this show, including our own. And Thomas Sorensen was working across Paramount on the weekend out at the Melbourne derby. And we just thought he asserted his dominance over the next crop of goalkeepers in Patrick Beach here. Thomas,
you know what?
Why are we not giving him any shelter?
He's still not there to get under the umbrella. But the backstory is Archie was actually holding that umbrella, and he kept banging my head, so I took control of the umbrella. And Patrick Beach was already wet, and we're divas, so we needed to stay high and dry.
Keep the hair gel dry.
Yeah, Grace, you actually said it was probably worse where he was holding it because the water was filtering off.
Yeah, it's dripping down.
Dripping down.
He was already wet. Come on.
Well, one of the great games of the weekend, a great game for the A-League in general, was the New Zealand derby, Auckland versus Wellington. What a fierce one it was. Thomas, let's just talk through this one. This was a very big game for both clubs. Very fierce from the get-go, goals from the get-go. But just break down the game for us for what you saw.
Yeah, again, so much at stake, especially for Wellington. We've 3 wins for Auckland coming into it, and it couldn't have started any worse. After 90 seconds, you're 1-0 down, and we'll talk about this high line that Chief is installed, and it's just not working. The communication, at times they're even in the opposition half where there's no offsides, and it's just not the way you want to start when there's so much at stake. You want to show off to your fans, and you leave yourself, on the back foot from minute one. It's a little bit mind-baffling for me why they still keep at it, or at least, so convincingly that especially when it's not working.
Well, Grace, we'll get your grab on the initial red card here from Dan Hall, but let's have a look at what Steve Corica had to say post-game about the first and second red card.
The first one shouldn't have been a red card. The second one happened because of the first decision.
Grace, what did you think there? I mean, look, I don't know exactly what he's meaning there, but it obviously means that the first one was wrong. Therefore, the second one was made to be a faulty error from the referee as well.
Yeah, whether he's saying that it's because there was a handball or that it wasn't a red card because De Vries was, within close range. I think for me, it looked like a red card. Dan Hall has made clear contact, and he's obviously impaired the ability to run in on goal. So, there's a whole sort of range of reasons why Corica might be saying that, but it's a red card. And if you actually look back and you ask the Auckland players, would they want to do that again? They'd say yes, because they came away with the win. So that stops an obvious goal scoring opportunity. If he makes contact any later, he's in the box and it's a penalty, different story. So,
can you see Steve Corica's argument at all here? I mean, as we just look at Logan Rogerson, looked like a bit of an unnecessary challenge there with 11 minutes to go.
It is a lunge, and again, he comes in with a side foot, but it's raised, and he hits the shin. I don't think there's any argument. I think he's waffling a bit around there. Steve Corica, I think they're both red cards. You know what? The touch, especially on Piper, it comes early. And yes, when he falls eventually, De Vries is there, but I don't think there's an argument that it's not a red card. But they fought it out, and I think that's credit to them. You know, they made a few changes, just made it really tough in that central, you know, part of the defence, and really Wellington didn't have an answer. They didn't really create any chances.
Well, Auckland had a great game to show resilience with 8 men, or 9 men, I should say, in the game throughout it. 48th minute sending off for Dan Hall with 11 minutes to go. Logan Rogerson was off as well, so a really strong Auckland side getting the job done. But very interesting, Wellington, we've seen in the first 4 or 5 weeks of the competition, if they were any higher their backline, they would be up in the sky, I dare say. They cop goals, a couple from that sort of adjusted high line that they've been going with from Chiefy's end. Thomas, we've got to talk about this because this is a bit of a challenge for them. They're all playing a high line to a point of what almost seems not purposeful.
Yeah, but I think theoretically, if all parts play into it, you know, it can work. We see great teams like Barcelona, they play a high line, they cop a few goals, but they just manage to score 4, 3, 4, 5 in the other end. And first of all, when you keep on high line, you need pressure on the ball. And here De Vries, you know, gets a clear ball. Loki, the right back, doesn't quite know if you should drop, stay. The line is at the halfway line, and I think, for my liking, that's already too high. They need to at least be 5 yards deep from the halfway line. Give you a little bit of a buffer, you know, where you can either go up or you can drop. By just going up, you have no chance of correcting it, and if one doesn't communicate, you
Well, that's what you saw, Luke. You know, started to drop early, everyone else held a high line, and then it's onside. I also think, you know, when you have VAR in play, playing a high line can still work if everyone's on the same page, but at the end of the day, if it's a tight core, they're going to still be making that 50-yard run. So poses a question as to
well,
why.
here's a strange one, Thomas. We saw the wrong
even
side.
worse.
I mean, yeah.
You know, they're actually in the opposition half where, you know, offside becomes irrelevant. And you know what? I think Steve Corica said after the game, they obviously picked it up. They were working on it. You know, it's you know, you can have the strikers drop. You get runs from your second line from midfield, and it's too easy to you know, get in behind. And I think also they only caught Auckland offside once.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's
You know,
not working, right? If you're not pressing the ball and you're sitting high,
that's the first rule.
that's a disaster, which they got caught out there for the first for both goals, I should say. But even more so, if they are in their own half and they're not on halfway and they've still got a player behind them, that's risky business, Thomas, I thought as well. And so, Grace, you saw that too with Cosgrove being given the second goal. He actually started offside in both those goals, didn't he?
Both goals, and I think that's, as a striker, that's exactly what you should be doing. With Wellington's high line, there's not much space there to receive in to feet, so he stays out of the way, and then with the 2 long balls over the top, he's in the perfect position for 2 easy goals.
And a player we saw in the past, Besha Barisha, you know, who was so good at that, deliberately being offside, be goal side of the defender, and knowing that the ball is going down left or right wing, you always in front for the second ball for the tap in, and that's what Cosgrove did twice, and Randall as well, 2 you know, great time runs.
Oh, the Melbourne Derby was next up on the weekend, and that was a great game. Very important game for both clubs. Melbourne Victory needing to get a win to build momentum in their season, and Melbourne City just starting to assert their dominance, as we know, in the competition. Grace, a bit of a problem for Melbourne Victory at the moment is that number 9 position, grabbing goals. They had a lot of opportunities. They did have the ball in the front third for periods of the game. I mean, is there anything you're seeing that they need to change, adjust to capitalise on some of the moments they're creating?
Yeah, I thought there was actually some brilliant moments in the game, and when they were able to string passes together in the midfield, Mata and Grimaldi connected beautifully, but they were missing a finisher, someone who was physical, being able to break down that Melbourne City backline as well, and they were able to get in pockets but never in behind enough to cause them any problems. So yeah, I think they are looking for that provider of goals. Obviously, Fornaroli was brilliant last year and over the season, so it is a big talking point, and I think they'll be looking to fix that immediately.
Yeah, well, Virgos, 10 games, no goals, and Jing Reese, no goals since he's been at Melbourne Victory. That's their 2 number 9 options, Thomas. On the other hand, Max Caputo from your very own Melbourne City.
Yeah.
We're going to pull up footage of this goal and the difference of the clinical nature that he's been in at the moment.
Yeah, and that's how Melbourne City started. They came out of the traps. They actually, won the ball higher up. Andreas Kuhn, who I thought was brilliant. And then the timing of the strike. He takes it. That's an instinctive striker's goal. And he's on top form. You can see the confidence. And what I love is, and that was the difference between the two teams. Burgos didn't really put himself about. Max Caputo fights for every single ball. He, and even in games when he's not scoring, he puts in a shift. And I think that was the disappointment in my view. I don't know how you see it as you're closer to the club, but it was a great opportunity because Melbourne City had, plenty of experienced players out. They have just spent 10 hours on an economy flight back from Japan. All these young players. That's a time where you should assert yourself, front foot. And Melbourne Victory actually, before that first goal, they were just sitting back, letting Melbourne City play. I thought they started wrongly.
Yeah, well, that's what we're going to be talking about here as well. Melbourne Victory, what an opportunity it was. 5 injuries to the hamstrings of all things for key players. Elbasan Rashani, Matthew Leckie, Aziz Bayic and Suprayin, all before the game, were unavailable due to hamstring injuries. Grace, then we saw Nathaniel Atkinson go down to make it the 6th hamstring. A bit of a problem, a conundrum here for Melbourne City to be aware of.
Yeah, I mean, you can never really pinpoint why an injury happens, and it is alarming to have so many of the same nature, but it's also to key players. So a bigger opportunity. I think what it goes to show the testament of City and their ability to play a system in which players can come in and they can keep the same level of intensity rather than rely on key players to sort of carry the team through. So it's almost promising signs for City in that way because they're able to get a huge result in a big derby this early on in the season while still travelling and playing the Champions League.
Absolutely. And Thomas, you've been a big fan of Patrick Beach, even saying that he was the best goalkeeper in the competition at the moment. Asian Champions League man of the match, Socceroos call up in a man of match on the weekend. Just talk us through his game.
Yeah, no, again, I think he's a player that's ascended over the last season and a bit. He came in for Jamie Young. There was a lot of question marks. Made a couple of mistakes, but just the way he's handled himself, he's so level-headed. And now he's just elevated the game. Looking statistically, he was the best goalkeeper last year. He had a 76% save percentage, 13 clean sheets alongside Alex Paulson. And he started the same this year. And I think it's deservedly he's in the Socceroos. Will he get an opportunity? But I think just for him, the confidence and just, it's nice as a player, just to be recognised. Now, you're playing well, and for him, that'll elevate him another step up the ladder. And he's working harder here. So, all good on him.
Well, they had the best defensive record last year. They've only conceded 1 this year. So Patrick Beach deservingly got a call up to the Socceroos, joined with a couple of other A-League players that have been uncapped for the Socceroos. A few that have been in camps before in Paul Oakland Jr. and Kai Truan, along with Al Hassan Toure getting a call up after his hat-trick, and of course Melbourne City goalkeeper Patrick Beach. Grace, this is going to be very, very big. There's a couple of games happening in America this month. November 15th, Venezuela in Houston, and then November 19th against Colombia in New York. Do you reckon we'll see any of the boys feature here?
Yeah, I think there's going to be 1 or 2 debuts. I think that's a great opportunity now with the World Cup qualification sorted and some great South American opponents. Venezuela and Colombia play slightly different as well. So I grew up and played a few years with Kai Truan and his mentality was elite from 10, 11 years old. So I think over the past few seasons, he's been incredible in the A-League, consistent as a centre back and as a midfielder. So I think with the way that the Socceroos want to play, he'll fit right in, and I just deserve it of that cap.
Thomas, you spoke about something very interesting as well off camera. It was just about sometimes Tony Popovich might be bringing in players just to test their mentality. He knows they might have quality, but what's their mentality like going to be in camps and ready for international games?
Yeah, it's as much a big part. Will they be ready? Because yes, you can flash in the A-League, and Hassan Toure, had a great hat trick the other week. So just to see him in training, see how he goes about, his professionalism, everything else. Just looking for the future, and I think the exciting thing is that we've got all these players in the A-League that are knocking on the door, and I think it's great that we have a coach as well that looks that way. I think Paul Oakland Jr. I think has really also stepped up. He could be another, player that could be close. I think him and Kai is
likely, yeah.
probably likely.
Well, they've been in camps before as well,
Yeah,
both of them,
yeah.
so they've experienced what it's like
Yeah.
without playing and featuring.
Yeah, and maybe there's a little bit there to play with the ties to Belgium as well for Paul. You never know what will be on the horizon. I'm sure Australia is where he wants to be, and he's shone with the under-20s as well. So I like to see that progression where you have...
Yeah, no, I think, as you said, lock him down.
Yeah.
Then there's no issues going forward.
And if you're getting picked at this point, Tony Popovich has got to be thinking of you as a real chance for a World Cup position. Like, if it's this close to the tournament, there's got to be a reason, a method to his madness. That's going to be a real opportunity for you to get there in America.
Yeah, but let's be clear. There's no free tickets. These are earned on merit, and I think you can say that all these players definitely deserve a chance to be in there, and then it's up to them to show enough in camp, to get a call up next time. But I think it's good that he gets a broader view at this moment in time. I think when you start to get into 2026 and those games, he'll start to narrow things down and pick the players that he feel will potentially be in that World Cup squad.
Well said. Well, I was out at Coopers Stadium on the weekend watching Adelaide versus Western Sydney Wanderers at one of the great stadiums of the competition, Coopers. What an atmosphere it was. Western Sydney Wanderers just falling short again as Adelaide took a 2-0 win. Luka Jovanovic goal into a Craig Goodwin goal. Grace, we're just going to harbour on Western Sydney here. I guess you're a little bit more optimistic about what you're seeing with them. They've only got a couple of goals in the competitions, 2 draws and 2 losses. Where are you seeing the gaps for them, and where are you seeing that they've actually got some promise about them?
Yeah, well, I guess the promise is that they're still creating chances, and that game could have gone completely opposite way had Krev scored that opportunity early on. And I think losing Milanovic and Zach Sapsford from last season was potentially something. Their chemistry was unreal last season, and they got on a roll. But you brought in Costa Barbarouses, and we know from the past, once he scores one, then there's an opportunity for more. So I'm optimistic. It's only 4 games in, and yes, no wins, 2 draws against good sides as well. So, yeah, I think for them it's going to be no panic stations there, and a few wins on the trot, and the narrative will change.
Well, here are some of the chances, Thomas. Crave missing one early. As you saw, the link-up play was there, the opportunities were there, they just couldn't capitalise.
Yeah, I think they're still searching. We saw Quall here hitting, the post, and Crave will get another shot here to try to get it over the line. But I think tactically they have to get that midfield right. They're obviously playing, they're sort of rotating a little bit. Ugarkovic is drifting inside, and it leaves a bit of space. Simmons, the right back, gets left in one-on-one situations. It's hard for him to go forward because he knows, the Adelaide players are very aggressive going the other way, and it just creates an imbalance that I don't think they've figured out yet. How do they actually get the most out of that? Yeah, it's good it's great. Some good players in that midfield.
Yeah, well, the conundrum, I guess, is people will think that, and to my thinking as well, Ugarkovic, Brillante and Thurgate, very similar players. Ugarkovic is being pushed out on the right. You've got the 2 quality engine room midfielders, which are like players in the midfield. They're just missing that just creative twist that potentially is what can unlock Barbarouses to get some more goals as well.
Yeah, no, we saw it with Victory, that they missed someone, and Mata has now come in and is actually, I think, reasonably well fulfilling that role, creating that chances. I don't know, one of them, Thurgate, Borrello, somebody's got to, because they're not going to get a new player from somewhere, so they'll have to find a way to tweak the system where they can maximize it, and so far it's nearly there, but it's not quite there.
Grace, do you think Western Sydney, are they going to get worse before they get better, or are they going to get better sooner?
That's a good question. I think they've got a tough fixture ahead as well, and have had that. So I think that there might be a little bit more of a storm, and then with the longer season, they'll start carrying through and pick up some points and maybe go under the radar a little bit and climb the ladder.
Well, the chemistry will start to build. Well, a team that doesn't go under the radar in the Ninja A-Leagues is Grace's very own, because Jeff Hopkins, one of the great managers of the competition of women's football in this country, got up to his 200th game in his 10th season as a coach across the Ninja A-League. Grace, just talk us through this man, because he's got 4 championships to his name. You're very close to him. I mean, he's a very, very impressive coach.
Yeah, true testament to his, I guess, ability as a coach. He's come in to the A-League Women's in the inaugural season and won trophies. He's won trophies now as well at Victory Premierships. He's a brilliant coach he's very defensive minded because he's a centre back true and true. So a wonderful man that I love playing under, and he's had the ability to bring Matildas home and players want to play for him and at the club. He's built a wonderful program at Victory, and it's an honour to play under him.
And just before we go into the highlights of the game, one thing you said to me before that I thought was interesting was his loyalty to women's football. You sort of shared that as some of the senior men coaches in the women's game get better, or get more accomplished, they tend to move over to the men's game, but he's very much stayed loyal to the Melbourne Victory program.
Absolutely. I think, it is just one of the part of the game, whether that's a financial reason or opportunity. You do see the coaches that work in the women's game that get success, especially early on in their coaching career, they get transferred over to the men's program. You've seen that at Melbourne City, and I think Jeff has dedicated his time to Melbourne Victory since 2016, and that shows in the culture that we have at the club. And we've got support staff as well who are elite and have been wanted in the men's programs, and they've chosen to stay in the women's. So I think there's a reason why they've made finals and they've won trophies so many years in a row, because his dedication.
But it's also a credit to the club for actually, doing what they can to keep him. Because again, if you give him the tools, he's much more likely. But I think it's great for the women's game that you got someone there who's. Yeah. Now,
some great games over the weekend across the Ninja A-League, but in particular, Grace's game had some great goals. Kennedy White with a hat-trick in a 4-1 win over Western Sydney. Grace, just talk us through what happened here.
You've done our goalkeeper a little dirty here, cutting off her assist, but a really nice finish, really composed. Kennedy, she's a formidable player. We saw her from day one in pre-season. She's fit, fast.
These are top finishes.
She's left foot, right foot, header. She's also a player that knows where to be in the box for a finish like this. I think that's exactly what you want from your forward. She can score off nothing, and she's also putting in simple finishes. So she contributed to the 4th goal as well. So look out, Golden Boot.
And what are your ambitions this season? As a team now, this is a great win.
Yeah. It's to go undefeated and win the premiership.
Hey,
there you go.
Hey.
No pressure, Jeff.
Get the
no pressure, Jeff. Yeah. That's your very own player, by the way. But
he would be standing right behind me saying that. He's in my year, actually.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to you, Jeff Hopkins. 200 games and a lot of championships. I'm sure more to come. Sydney FC, haven't they started well? Joe Lolly, in particular, a player that we thought might be going to Perth in the off-season, has continued to soar as one of the competition's best as they got a win over MacArthur yesterday. Thomas, is he one of the best in the competition, Joe Lolly? We see him over, now he's played 100 games for the club, but he continues to show his quality.
He's definitely one of the best players. I think he's shown over the last three seasons that he's consistent. He always contributes. I think he's had a goal and an assist for God knows how many games in a row now. And again, he comes up here. We see him dropping into the box, finishing it. So he's got that. He can be the creator, but he can also be that end product. And he's such an important.
Grace, you got to think as well. Douglas Costa was a player that was supposed to come back. They didn't get. He's almost had to fill the void of that. So his quality's been even more important, knowing that they've lost probably the competition's biggest name. Yeah,
whether he's taken that in his stride, I think he's such a competitor. You can see it in his eyes. The likes of these strikers that have been so successful in the A-League, they've got this hunger that I love to see. His work rate, his leadership, I think, has been really important. He brings so much energy to the game, but then he has the clinical finishes and the class to provide as well. You don't see him miss many cutback shots like they did on the weekend. So, for me, top player, one of my favourite players to watch. And I think for young strikers and wingers around the league, someone that they should learn off.
Well, the tongue twister Piero Quispe, along with El Hassan Toure and Victor Camposano, have also filled a void for Melbourne, for Sydney FC, with Segacic going and obviously Douglas Costa. How important has that chemistry been building and looking really strong for Sydney FC? Yeah, and Patrick Wood has been coming off the bench and being influential. So, there's players have left, but other players have stepped up. And I think, we had some question marks, talking before the season about Sydney, but
I think they've answered all the questions. I think they look among, Auckland and Melbourne City right now. They're neck and neck, and it'll be interesting. I think they have Melbourne victory in the Big Blue after the international break. Yeah. What a game that'll be. Can't wait for that one.
Yeah. Well, we know Joe Lolly's right up there. We got Andreas Kuhn and Craig Goodwin and some other players. Yeah. Is Joe Lolly at the top of the pack right now in the competition for you, Grace?
Yeah, for me, I look at his track record and I also look at what he's doing for Sydney FC to potentially unlock other players as well. I rate him highly, and I think if he continues that form, then there's no question.
Thomas, so I don't think you have him number one.
No, again, I was there at the Melbourne Derby. Andreas Kuhn, I think, is very underrated. Nobody really talks about him, but again, he had an assist. He always provides. He can score goals. But again, I think we're lucky to have a lot of good players in the A-League, but Joe Lolly is definitely up there amongst the best of them.
Well, a squad that's been assembling and rising as a football club over the off-season and into the start of the season is Brisbane Roar. They accomplished their third clean sheet over the weekend. I believe they only had one last year as well, so they've definitely made some real strong improvement. Thomas, when we look at their backline, they've got McGarry, who's a former championship player, Valkanis and Harrington, young defenders. They've also got Salas out wide as well. They've got Billity, who's injured. That seems to be locked up a lot better also with Bazanis at the back there with his feet. That's being predominantly a real factor for them building up. I mean, how are you seeing the organisation shift from last season to this season?
Yeah, again, I think they've changed, or tried to change their mentality, and I think we can see the results. Valkanis has sort of thrown a nuclear bomb in there, said we need to be better. We need to have higher expectations, and that comes with hard work. That comes with organisation. And I think what Dean Bazanis as a goalkeeper gives you, he gives you a let out. I think last year they got caught on the ball a lot of times. They shipped a lot of goals because they were trying to play out, but lost the balls in bad positions. But that's something he is exceptionally good at. And I think we can already see now that they're not under pressure as much as they were in previous seasons, and that helps keeping clean sheets.
And he brings so much confidence to your back line. And I think with the centre-backs, the pairings have swapped due to injury, red cards. So I think that's been, a key for them. They've been better on the ball. And then that, stops those transition moments where they looked vulnerable last year.
Well, as just a midfielder, Grace, as well, playing with a strong defence that's keeping clean sheets, I mean, the confidence that must instill into everyone forward of the pitch to have that trust in the backline, which they didn't have in their backline last year. Yeah,
I think when you end up conceding goals sort of off half chances or mistakes where as a midfielder you don't even get involved in the play, it can be frustrating, and then you're always on the back foot. And then the negativity comes around, we've got to score, and the frustration can build. So I don't think that their scoring form is sort of outrageously good. I think they're just consistent and they're putting balls in good areas. They've really improved, and the fans are excited.
Yeah, and it doesn't always have to be pretty, and not all teams have to play in a certain way. Eventually it's about winning, and they're starting to grow in confidence and see where it takes them.
Yeah. And despite Auckland being on top of the ladder, which Brisbane are going to be facing in their next game in the league,
a good test.
It's going to be a very good test. Yeah. We're very much big Melbourne City fans in regards to the quality they produce week in, week out. That 0-0 draw up at Suncorp was a really good sign for Brisbane to be able to keep a team as formidable as Melbourne City goalless.
Yeah, no, I think they've showed, in all the games that they're up for the fight. And also, it gets in the heads of other teams. It's always horrible to go and having to play a team and like, oh my God, we have to roll our sleeves up. And we have to win the physical battle before we can start to play.
Yeah.
So you know what? I think. Again, they're on the right track, and it's been a long while since Brisbane has been anywhere near the playoffs.
Well, I've got a couple to put you both on the spot with here before we sign off. But can Brisbane beat Auckland? Do we think in the next fixture? Is it possible, or are they still a little bit off the pace of the top of the competition?
Of course it's possible, but it'd probably be be a surprise in my eyes if they go there. If they get a draw, I can see a draw, but to win...
to win away would be a huge statement.
Yeah, it'd be massive.
Yeah.
And then let's pick one of the four. Who's going to debut for the Socceroos? If you were picking one, if you're Tony Popovich, who's getting the nod to get their first Socceroo cap?
I'm going to give my nod to Kai.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll go with Ocon Jr. then.
Oh, that's going to be some great fixtures upcoming. Grace, we've got to thank you for coming on the show. We've got to have you back soon, no doubt.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been great.
And good luck for the rest of the season. Thomas, as always, appreciate you. For everyone back home, we hope you enjoyed the A-League download presented by Isuzu Ute. We'll see you next week.